Hey guys, welcome to Let's Talk Venture, the podcast dedicated to travelers, backpackers and explorers with thousands of stories. My name is Sude and you're listening to a new episode of Short Stories for Big Adventure with an extract from my interview with DANI, a girl from New Zealand who was visiting Lyon for the Fête des Lumières. So I always like to end the interview with funny stories, and I think you just started to tell me funny stories before offline about Malaysia Airlines.
So when I was 16,
Yeah.
that was the first time I was in France, and I was going home, and because of my exchange that I did, it was like, find your own way there, find your own way home. So I'd booked this flight, so I took the train to Paris, and then my flight was going to be, like, the train was in the morning, and the flight was in the morning, and it was going to be, like, direct back home, like, 1 hour stopover in Malaysia, and then home. This was, like, a month after the flight disappeared too, so I was like a little bit scared. But then I got to the airport, I checked all my bags and like all my money, and I didn't have my phone because I broke my phone off the train or something. I just smashed it. It was a bad situation. Anyway, so I put all my luggage, sent it off, and then they were like, oh, your flight's been delayed by 12 hours.
12?
I was like, what the fuck?
12
yeah,
hours?
12 hours. It was like 7 in the morning in Paris. I was like, what the fuck? 12 hours? So I was going to miss my second flight too. And I was like, what? Why? 12? And I just put all my money, I had like €20, I think. And they're like, yep, your flight's been delayed. And I was like, what about my luggage? And they're like, sorry, it's already gone. I'm like, okay. So I go to the mall next to the airport.
Yeah.
And I watched like Kingsman. Do you remember Kingsman?
Yeah, the movie.
Yeah, it was really good. I watched it twice because I watched it in French, and then in Malaysia I had time, so I watched it again because there were no other films I really wanted to watch, and I wasn't sure if I fully understood in French, but I was like, I'll give it a go.
Wait, so you watched it 2 times in French?
No, like once in French and then once in Malaysian, in English with Malaysian subtitles.
Okay.
Yeah, but in that, I had the whole day at the airport, so I was like, what else to do? And then there was this guy playing the piano, stupid, like, play the piano. It's quite good, and then he started talking to me. And then he was like, do you want to grab a drink? And he was like 60 or something. And I was like, sure. And I'm like 16, and I'm like, what the fuck did I just do? And then I just like make up lies about my life. Like, we're just talking, and he's like, what's your name? And I'm like, I realised at that point that was a really bad idea, and it was probably just because I was tired that I was like, yes, I'm going to talk, because he approached me and started chatting.
Did it seem frightening?
Well, not really, like, mostly harmless, but I obviously didn't look very old.
Yeah.
And he obviously was quite old, so,
Yeah.
so I was just an idiot, really. And so I'm chatting with him at this stupid bar, and of course they don't ID you because it's France, and no one IDs you. So I was like, oh, I'm grabbing a drink, pretty risque, and then I realised, so I tell him a fake name, I'm like, I'm Veronica. He's like, how old are you? I'm like, 23. And I'm like, definitely not looking like I'm 23. And then it's really harmless because, like, we're in a bar in the airport mall. So it's not really, like, what's the worst thing that can happen? I can't get taken. I'm not at his house. Well, that's what was going through my head. I was like, I'm not at his house. I'm not going to be taken. It's fine. And then he was like, where are you going? And I was like, oh, sorry, I'm meeting up a family member at 12 or something, or 1. But actually, I just had my movie to go to. And he was like, oh, can we keep in touch? Do Facebook? And I was like, oh, my New Year's resolution is I'm not on my social media. Which was completely bullshit, but it was like just after, well, it was January, so I could say that. And he was like, okay, and I was like, bye, forever. Yeah, but I didn't say bye forever, I just said au revoir. Not bon continuous. Yeah. And then in Malaysia, I did a stupid thing too, because it's not this, because I took my flight, right, so after my Kingsman, it was such a good movie, like such a good movie. And then I spent all my money, which was a stupid idea. So when I got to Malaysia, they put me up in the swankiest hotel, because I think Malaysian Airlines is owned by the government. The government's a bit corrupt, so like they put me up at like the world's nicest hotel. Like
Okay.
Nelson Mandela stayed there. They
Yeah.
had on their wall like people who stayed there, and there was like the Queen, Nelson Mandela, and I was like, why the fuck am I staying here? But it was nice, and they had this free shuttle, and so I had a full like 30 hours in Malaysia, so I had like a full day, and I didn't have my togs because...
Your what?
Oh yeah, that's another word, togs. Like swimming, bathing suit.
Oh, okay,
Togs,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Your
kiwi.
swimming suits? Your swimming suits?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My togs though.
Okay.
My togs, no. So I didn't have my togs, so I couldn't go in the really nice pool. I didn't have any money. Well, I still had like, I think I had €5 or something. So just like no way enough. And I only had my one pair of clothes because they'd taken all my bags and they were like, no answer. Where are your bags? Not going to tell you. I don't know. And so I decided to go into town because I had a free shuttle bus. And I was like, are you going to meet me? And I didn't have my phone too because I broke it. And I was like, are you going to meet me at this time? Because the flight went at like, I had to be at the airport at like 5, the shuttle bus was going. And I was like, the shuttle, but the bus that took me from my accommodation to town and back, they were going to pick me up at 3 p.m. from outside like the Twin Towers. And so I went to the Twin Towers, went to the mall, all was good. Watched Kingsman again because it's cheap, and I ate chicken rice and it was yum, good time. Want to leave, the shuttle bus never came. And I'm like waiting outside, I'm like fuck, because it's like 3:30 now and I have to be back at the hotel by 5 to catch, and I was like, I'm not missing this plane. And then I like, so this random guy, because I obviously look like a tourist, he comes up and he's like, can I take you back to your accommodation? And I was like, no. He's like, who are you? And I was like, I have family here, I'm just waiting for family. And he's like, okay. But he's like stalks me through this mall. I'm like, what the fuck, like leave me alone. So I talk to these tourists, I like start crying because I'm like, oh, I just fucked up and I'm really tired too because of jet lag. And these two stupid British stupid tourists were like, okay, I'll help you, here's some money for the taxi, because I obviously have no money left, and order me a taxi, but get that guy who was stalking me to go in a taxi with me. They're like, oh no, he wants to help you out. And I was like, no, he doesn't, just leave me alone. And they're like, yes, he wants to help you, go with him. I was like, what the fuck? So I'm sitting in this taxi and they're talking in Malay in the front seat, and I'm just like, if I get taken, I'm gonna be so fucking pissed off right now. Like, why did they do this? And I was like, no. And they're like, yes, he obviously wants to help you. And I'm like, you stupid people, just put me in this taxi. And I didn't have a phone, and I was thinking, I'm quite good. I feel like a homing pigeon. I always know, once I go somewhere, I know how to come back. So like I kind of not memorized, but like I knew the route to take back from, and I was like, if they go on the highway, I'm gonna like roll out and just like shout for help. So I had this idea in my head, and then it turned out to be okay, and they took me home, but he was like wanted to like hug me, and I was like, fuck off, like goodbye. But it was very scary, and I was just super stupid. And then I was like, no more, because I wanted to be adventurous, right? I was like, I want to see the city, I've got one day in Malaysia. It was such a stupid idea. And so I didn't tell my parents in any of this, because obviously I wanted to be, and then I called it. It was all fine from there. Nothing else bad happened. But it was just so stupid. I was just so stupid. Like, I just kept thinking, like, why did I do that? And then I'm like, especially with that drink. I was like, why? And the whole time I was like, I better, like, keep looking at my glass because I don't want to, like, spike my drink or something. I was like, who gets a random fucking piano man who's just like, you know, you can play the piano if you want, and then when he approaches you and he's 16 and you're 16 and he asks you for a drink, to be like, yes, I will go because you're really hot. He was not really hot. Yeah. Okay. And then with the Malaysian thing, it was like, oh, I'm just so stupid. Like, I had €5. Like, what made me think that I could actually... Like, I trusted too much this stupid driver who was like, yes, I will be here at 3 p.m. When I got back, I complained, and they're like, I was there, and I was like, no, you fucking weren't there. I didn't say fucking, but I said, no, you weren't there. And they're like, no, I definitely was. And I'm like, you were not there. I waited an hour and a half. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's why, folks, you don't lose. Well, I think my main issue was that I had no money. If I had money, everything would be fine. But I just put my main, like, because I was meant to go straight home, right? So I put all my little fanny pack with euros, just like chucked it in the big bag.
Maybe a good tips for the people who are traveling.
Yeah.
Always keep your wallet with you all the time.
Just don't be an idiot, basically.
Okay.
Just don't be an idiot.
A big thanks to Danny who has accepted to talk with me during this episode. Thanks also to the Alto Hostel and its staff for letting me record the podcast, and thank you for listening to it. I highly invite you to listen to the full episode with Danny and the previous episodes of Let's Talk Venture. You can also find other episodes of the podcast on YouTube, Deezer, Spotify, Apple Podcast, PodCloud, and the Internet Archive. You can follow my adventure on Instagram and Facebook, and all the links will be in the descriptions. And if you've liked this episode, please share it and talk about it around you. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a thumbs up and 5 stars, and I see you next Monday.